Netanyahu didn't see this coming. Traoré just changed everything. Before we begin, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, and like this video. Share it with your friends and tell us in the comments where you're watching from and what time you're seeing this. Your support helps us bring you the stories that mainstream media will never tell. While you were scrolling through TikTok videos about millionaires, something far bigger was happening. A 37-year-old soldier in Africa just pulled off moves that have Washington, Paris, and Tel Aviv in complete panic. His name is Ibrahim Traoré. And in just 2 years, he has done what no African leader dared to do in decades. He kicked out French troops who had been stationed in his country for over a decade. He nationalized foreign-owned gold mines worth billions. He built alliances with Russia, China, and Iran that completely bypass Western control. And he turned his landlocked nation into the epicenter of a revolution spreading across an entire continent. But here's the part Western media will never tell you. The methods he's using aren't just working in Burkina Faso. They're being studied, copied, and implemented by leaders across West Africa. And the global powers that have controlled Africa for centuries are terrified because they know exactly what this means. This isn't just one country rejecting Western influence. This is an entire generation proving that Africa doesn't need to stay poor, doesn't need to accept exploitation, and doesn't need anyone's permission to control its own resources. This is the story of how Ibrahim Traoré is dismantling an empire that took centuries to build, and why his success could shift the balance of global power forever. You probably never heard of Ibrahim Traoré before. That's by design. Western media would rather you focus on celebrity scandals than the man who's tearing apart their system of control. At 37, he's the world's youngest head of state. But don't let his age fool you. He has military training from a prestigious academy, a geology background that gives him deep knowledge of his nation's mineral wealth, and, unlike many leaders, a fearless ability to say no to Western powers, no matter the cost. On September 30th, 2022, Traoré led a military coup that changed everything. This wasn't just another African power struggle. It was the beginning of a movement that challenged how the world extracts wealth from Africa. Within months, he shocked diplomats in Washington, Paris, and London. He didn't just shuffle ministers or tweak policies, he flipped the script. And while Western media painted him as another dictator, his people saw something very different. Hope. Approval for military rule jumped to 66% compared to just 24% a decade earlier. Why? Because unlike others before him, Traoré wasn't just making speeches, he had a plan. By January 2023, Traoré gave France an ultimatum. French forces had 1 month to leave Burkina Faso. Not a negotiation, not a polite request, an order. For years, French troops claimed to be fighting terrorism. Yet violence only grew worse. Entire regions were abandoned, thousands killed, and millions displaced. The French presence wasn't solving the problem, it was managing it. Traoré called it out. And when President Macron accused African nations of ingratitude, Traoré's response went viral. If anyone is ungrateful, it is him. France exists today thanks to our ancestors. They should pray for us. By February 2023, French troops were gone. But that was just step one. Burkina Faso is rich in gold, billions worth. For decades, foreign companies dug it up, shipped it out, and left the people poor. In November 2023, Traoré announced the country's first state-owned refinery. By early 2024, he suspended shady export permits that allowed smuggling. And by 2025, he moved to nationalize foreign-owned industrial mines. Instead of exporting raw resources for pennies, Burkina Faso would now refine, process, and profit on its own terms. And this wasn't just about economics. Traoré was building alliances that bypassed Western influence. Russia for military cooperation, China for infrastructure, Iran for nuclear research. And in 2023, he joined Mali and Niger in forming the Alliance of Sahel States, which by 2024 became a full confederation. Over 70 million people united under one principle. African sovereignty first, Western approval last. Western powers panicked. Reports of coup attempts, assassination plots, and destabilization campaigns began to surface. But every attack only made Traoré more popular, both at home and across Africa. Countries like Chad, Senegal, Niger, and Ivory Coast started pushing out French troops. The CFA franc, the colonial-era currency binding 14 nations to Paris, came under attack, and young Africans, inspired by Traoré, began demanding sovereignty-first policies in their own nations. Reality check. Of course, this revolution isn't without challenges. Burkina Faso still faces jihadist violence, with millions displaced. Tourism is gone, foreign investors are cautious, and the country ranks near the bottom of the Global Human Development Index. But unlike leaders before him, Traoré isn't promising quick fixes. He's betting on long-term sovereignty. If projections hold, Burkina Faso's economy could grow by 8% annually for the next 2 decades, lifting millions out of poverty. The real question is this: will Africans accept temporary struggles for permanent independence? Because if Traoré succeeds, the consequences go far beyond Burkina Faso. For centuries, the global system worked like this. Africa extracts resources, the West refines them, then sells them back for profit. Traoré is proving that model can be broken, and if it spreads, it could end resource exploitation as the foundation of Western wealth. China and Russia see the opportunity. Western powers see a threat. But either way, the tide is turning. And so, what began as a secret plan to silence one leader has turned into a continental awakening. Netanyahu and Western allies thought they were making deals in the shadows. Instead, they lit a fire across Africa. This is bigger than politics. This is about dignity, sovereignty, and a generation that refuses to be controlled. The question now is simple. Will the world adapt to Africa's new voice? Or will they keep underestimating a continent that has finally said, enough? Because whether they like it or not, Africa is rising, and this time, it will not be stopped. If you believe Africa deserves independence, hit that like button, share this video, and tell us in the comments which country you're watching from. And don't forget to subscribe, because this story is far from over. And the next chapter is going to change everything.